The moment Karen's meticulously painted smile faltered, her finger hovering over the enter key on the keyboard, was pure poetry. The monitor in front of her stubbornly displayed a generic login screen, rejecting my old employee ID for the third time. The gears in her head were visibly, agonizingly grinding. That's when I finally leaned in, my voice a soft, almost pitying whisper, and said, "Karen, sweetie, it's not going to work. My ID's been inactive for 2 weeks." Her head snapped up, eyes wide and bloodshot, like she'd just seen a ghost punch her grandma. But to truly appreciate that glorious incandescent rage, you need the full picture. See, I'd officially clocked out of this particular brand of corporate hell 2 weeks prior. My last day was a celebration, a confetti cannon of never again. But, as is often the case, the ghost of my former employment still haunted me. I needed some final HR paperwork for my new job, something you can only get from your old HR department. So, there I was, back in the belly of the beast, feeling like a spy on a covert mission. I was just making my way through the floor, trying to stay inconspicuous, when I ran into Bob. Bob, bless his cynical heart, was one of the few good things about working there. We caught up, trading war stories and commiserating about the utter absurdity of our old workplace. We were laughing, totally oblivious to the ticking time bomb approaching in the form of Karen. Karen was our team lead, a woman who lived and breathed micromanagement. She believed productivity was directly proportional to the amount of fear she could instill in her subordinates, and she hated seeing people enjoy themselves during work hours. You know the type. "Is there a problem here?" Her voice, as sharp as a freshly sharpened pencil, cut through our conversation. She stood there, arms crossed, tapping her foot like a cartoon villain. "Are we forgetting company policy on unauthorized breaks, people? Or have you just decided to take the entire afternoon off, Bob?" Bob, ever the quick thinker, mimed putting on a headset and started fake typing. I just stood there, a smile playing on my lips. It was strangely liberating to not care. "And you?" Karen snapped, pointing a venomous finger at me. "What are you doing? I don't see you at your desk. Get back to work, now." I blinked slowly. "Karen, I don't want to hear it." She cut me off, her face reddening. "This is exactly why morale is down. People like you, slacking off, distracting others. If you don't get back to your station this instant, I'm writing you up for insubordination, young lady. And Bob, you're getting one too." Bob and I exchanged a look. His was a mix of bewilderment and, "Oh, she really thinks she can do this, doesn't she?" Mine was pure, unadulterated mischief. The audacity of her trying to write me up. The thought of it was so ridiculous, so utterly powerless, that I couldn't help it. A snort escaped me, quickly followed by a full-blown fit of giggles. Bob joined in, a low rumble of laughter bubbling up from his chest. Karen's face purpled. "You think this is funny?" she shrieked, her voice cracking. "Fine. You want to make a mockery of my authority? Fine. You'll be laughing out of the unemployment line, both of you." With that, she spun on her heel and stomped away, a furious little teapot whistling steam. Bob wiped a tear from his eye. "She's really gone off the deep end today, hasn't she?" "Oh, she's about to go even deeper," I promised, a wicked grin spreading across my face, because I had an idea, an absolutely brilliant idea. A few minutes later, Karen was back. In her hand, clutched like a pair of sacred tablets, were 2 sheets of paper. Her eyes, still blazing, fixed on me. "Here," she practically hissed, shoving them into my hand, "your written warning for gross insubordination and disruptive behavior. And this," she tossed another sheet at Bob, "is yours." Bob's fake typing slowed to a stop. He looked at the paper, then at me. "Now sign them," Karen commanded, a triumphant smirk replacing her scowl. "And maybe, just maybe, you'll learn to respect your team lead." I took the pen she offered, a performance of contrition playing out on my face. "You're absolutely right, Karen," I mumbled, lowering my gaze. "I'm so sorry. It won't happen again." Her chest puffed out. She ate it up. Bob just stared, his confusion giving way to a dawning comprehension as he saw the glint in my eye. I signed my name with a flourish, then handed her not just the signed paper, but also my old agent ID badge. It was a reflex, really, a habit from my working days. Karen took the badge without a second thought, probably assuming it was part of the punishment. She then proceeded to type my ID number into her system, ready to log my transgression. That's when her smile vanished, replaced by the priceless look of utter, soul-crushing humiliation I mentioned earlier. The system repeatedly rejected the ID. My profile couldn't be found. And that's when I delivered the coup de grace. "Yeah, Karen," I reiterated, my voice calm, almost sympathetic. "It's not going to work. I don't work here anymore. Haven't for 2 weeks. Remember my last day? My farewell cake? The email HR sent out?" The color drained from her face. Her jaw hung slack. Her eyes darted from the screen, to the papers she held, to me, then back to the screen. The realization slowly dawned, and with it, a primal scream of frustration and fury. You tricked me! You signed these papers. These are official company documents. Security! Security! She shrieked, waving the signed write-up around like a madwoman. Bob, now fully understanding the magnitude of the prank, let out a booming laugh. He grabbed my arm. "Come on, before she actually combusts." As Karen scrambled for the phone, yelling incoherently about forged documents and insubordination, Bob and I practically skipped out of the office. We could still hear her enraged squawks echoing down the hallway as we pushed through the main doors, laughing so hard we were practically bent double. Leaving that place felt good, but leaving Karen in that state? Utterly, deliciously fantastic. Sometimes you just gotta let them dig their own hole, then politely point out they're standing at the bottom of it.
Okay, real talk, if you're still here after 2 of these chaotic Reddit tales, you're probably one of us. Go ahead, hit subscribe. It's free chaos every episode. Now, let's dive into story number 3.
The sharp snap cut through the gentle murmur of the botanical garden cafe, making me jump. It was loud enough that even the birds outside seemed to quiet their chirping for a second. Before I could even fully process what had happened, a rolled-up menu hit my arm with a surprising thud, sending the stack I was already holding clattering onto the polished concrete floor. My cheeks instantly flamed. All heads, it seemed, turned in my direction, drawn by the sudden noise and the frankly belligerent woman now glaring at me from the next table. My dad, bless his heart, was already pushing back his chair. "Excuse me," I mumbled, my voice barely a whisper, as I scrambled to collect the scattered menus, my face burning crimson. This woman, who I can only describe as a human scowl with a bad perm, just folded her arms across her chest, cleared her throat loudly, and snapped her fingers again. Like I was a dog, my stomach dropped. Oh, I knew exactly what was happening. Okay, so let me rewind a bit. I'm Aubrey, and this whole ridiculously mortifying incident went down a while back at this gorgeous cafe situated right in the heart of a botanical garden. My family and I were there for a little weekend getaway, super excited to soak in the beauty, maybe try some fancy pastries, the usual. We'd just settled at our table, still taking in the lush greenery and the general peaceful vibe. I noticed the menus were stacked on a small cart near the entrance, a little distance from our table. Being me, and honestly just a bit of a tidy person, I figured I'd go grab them for our family. So I did. I picked up a few, and as I was walking back, making my way through the tables, another sweet older lady, let's call her Agnes, was struggling to pull a menu from the top of the stack on the cart. Without thinking, I just stopped and offered to help her. "Here, let me get that for you," I said, taking her menu, which was a bit stuck. She thanked me warmly, and I was just like holding these 2 sets of menus, hers and ours, feeling pretty good about my small act of helpfulness. That's when the scowl-faced woman at the table closest to Agnes's, and right next to mine, made her move. I hadn't even noticed her before, but now she was full-on staring, her eyes narrow and practically boring holes through me. And then came the snap. The one that kicked off this whole mess. I froze, totally caught off guard. She pointed a gnarled finger at me, then gestured impatiently at her own table. "Menus. What's taking so long? I've been waiting for ages," she barked, her voice surprisingly loud and raspy, cutting through the pleasant cafe buzz like a chainsaw. I stared at her, then down at the menus in my hands. I mean, I wasn't even near her table yet, and I was literally just helping someone else. Before I could even open my mouth to explain that I, in fact, did not work here, she snatched one of the rolled-up menus from her own table and, with surprising force, chucked it at me. It wasn't a gentle toss. It actually hit my forearm with that thud I mentioned earlier. And that's when everything went south. The menus I was holding, both ours and Agnes's, went flying, scattering across the floor with a pathetic clatter. My face, already flushed from the initial surprise, felt like it was on fire. I could feel every single eye in that cafe on me. The hushed whispers, the subtle head turns, it was like a spotlight had suddenly been switched on, highlighting my humiliation. I quickly bent down, heart pounding, trying to gather the fallen menus. "Are you deaf, girl? I said I want my menus." The woman screeched again, her face contorted in a truly impressive display of entitlement. She was actually shaking her head and tapping her foot now. That's when my dad, who had been watching this whole scene unfold with growing disbelief, finally stepped in. He walked over, calm but with an unmistakable edge in his voice. "Excuse me, ma'am," he said, standing between me and the angry woman. "Is there a problem here?" The woman bristled, momentarily taken aback by an actual adult male intervening. "Yes, there is a problem," she declared, puffing up. This girl here works at this cafe and she's being incredibly rude and slow. She just threw my menus on the floor." I stared at her, utterly bewildered. She threw them at me. My dad just shook his head slowly. "No, ma'am, she doesn't work here," he said, his voice flat. He then put a hand gently on my shoulder, looking directly at the furious woman. "This is my daughter, Aubrey. She was just trying to be helpful." The color drained from the woman's face like someone had pulled a plug. Her jaw, which had been set in a permanent scowl, actually went slack. Her friends at her table, who had been silently cringing through the whole ordeal, suddenly looked very interested in their teacups. "Oh," she gasped, her voice suddenly small. "Oh my word! I am so terribly sorry." She even looked like she might cry. I just assumed she was staff. "Well, she isn't," Dad said, his gaze unwavering. "And I think you owe her another apology for throwing things at her." She looked at me, her bravado completely gone, replaced by a deep crimson flush of her own. "Oh, my dear, I am so sorry," she repeated, her voice genuinely remorseful this time. She actually looked mortified. "I really am." She even picked up one of the stray menus and handed it back to me. Dad just gave her a curt nod, then turned to me. "All right, Aub, come on, go back to the table." I didn't need to be told twice. I dumped the rest of the menus, ours and Agnes's, back onto the cart and practically fled back to my family's table, my face still burning. As I walked, I could hear her friends laying into her. "Agnes, honestly, how could you?" one hissed. "You can't just throw things at people," another chided. And then, as I passed by, one of them, a kinder-looking lady, actually gave me a small apologetic smile and a quiet, "So sorry about her." I just nodded, too shell-shocked to say anything, and kept walking. Later that day, when I was changing, I noticed it. A faint, reddish bruise blooming on my forearm right where that menu had hit me. It was a little reminder, like a badge of honor for surviving a full-blown Karen tantrum. It was embarrassing, yeah, but looking back, it's also pretty funny. And honestly, I learned that sometimes, being too helpful just makes you look like you're on the clock. But hey, at least I got a story out of it, right?
The first smash against the squad car window nearly made me jump out of my skin. One minute, I was soaking in the hum of the police radio on my community ride along. The next, a woman with a wild look in her eyes was pounding on the glass, shrieking like a banshee. "Corrupt police! You're all corrupt," she wailed, her thick Norwegian accent slicing through the Connecticut air. "My name's Cameron, and I was just trying to get a feel for what our local cops dealt with. I grew up in this state, bouncing between affluent towns and struggling ones, and I've always had a pretty middle-of-the-road opinion on law enforcement. But lately, with the heroin crisis hitting my town hard, I figured it was time to see things firsthand, and boy was I seeing something." Officer Miller, bless his patience, had just pulled over to grab us some coffees. He calmly rolled down the window a few inches. "Ma'am, please step away from the vehicle. You're assaulting public property." "Assaulting? I'm exposing?" She screeched back, still hammering the glass, phone already pointed at us, recording. She looked like she was possessed, red in the face, eyes bulging. I just sat there frozen, thinking, this isn't how I pictured a ride-along starting. Then she did something that snapped me out of my stupor. With a guttural yell, she scooped up a handful of dirt from the median and flung it directly at Officer Miller. It splattered across his uniform, some of it landing on the dashboard. Before he could even react, she spun on her heel and sprinted back to a beat-up sedan parked haphazardly down the street. "Damn it!" Miller swore, already reaching for his radio. "Dispatch, we've got a runner. Female, white blonde, looks like late teens, early 20s, driving a gray sedan heading west on Main, assault on an officer, property damage. Suspect matches description from that disturbance outside the courthouse last week, asking questions and recording on her phone. I'm in pursuit." The chase was short but intense. She swerved through traffic like a maniac, ignoring stop signs, but Miller, steady as a rock, kept her in sight until she made a sudden turn into a residential area and vanished. We circled for a bit, but she was gone. The frustrating part, he knew who she was. Her name's Karen, apparently. Came up on the radar after harassing folks at the courthouse. Total nutcase, seems like. I thought that was the end of it, a wild story to tell. I was wrong. A few days later, I was back in town, minding my own business, grabbing a sub for lunch at the local shop. I was half listening to the radio, thinking about the ride-along, when the door burst open. In walked Karen. The same Karen. And she spotted me instantly. "There he is," she shrieked, pointing a finger directly at me. Every head in the sub shop turned. My face went hot. "That's the one. The corrupt cop. He assaulted me. In public. Right here." I nearly choked on my mozzarella. "What? Lady, what are you talking about? I don't even work here. I'm not a cop," I stammered, feeling like an idiot. This was classic r/IDontWorkHereLady territory, but on steroids. She genuinely thought I was an officer. "Don't lie," she hissed, striding toward me, pulling out her phone. "I have proof, look." She thrust the screen in my face. It was a video, shaky and zoomed in, clearly showing someone in a police car, and then a quick cut to a blurry image of me, overlaid with dramatic music and text accusing me of brutality. It was so poorly edited, it was painful. That's completely fake," I protested, looking around desperately for a friendly face. "That's not even what happened. I was on a ride along. I'm just a civilian." Just then, the shop door opened again, and in walked Officer Miller, probably on his lunch break. He took in the scene, Karen shrieking at me looking mortified, and a slow, knowing smirk spread across his face. "Karen," he said, his voice calm, cutting through her tirade. "Fancy seeing you here." She spun around. "Officer, he's here. He's denying his crimes." Miller raised an eyebrow. "Is that so? Well, Karen, there are a couple of things you should know. First, Cameron here, he's a civilian. He doesn't work for the department, never has. Second, I was wearing a body camera that day. And third, those are real lot cameras outside the police station you were filming last week. You want to guess what they caught?" Her eyes widened, a flicker of fear finally crossing her face. Before anyone could react, she lunged for Miller's chest, her target clearly his body cam. "You can't prove anything. It's all fake," she screamed, clawing at his uniform. That was it. Miller, still remarkably composed, deftly dodged her grab, took her arm, twisted it behind her back, and had her cuffed in seconds. "You have the right to remain silent," he began, reading her rights as she continued to babble about exposing and taking down the system. It turned out Karen was a 19-year-old Norwegian national supposedly representing some small, obscure nonprofit. Her true motives? To take over local law enforcement, purify the police, and install a new order. She wasn't just entitled, she was dangerously delusional. Her nonprofit, to their credit, quickly distanced themselves, stating she was a rogue agent acting completely outside their mission. After that whole ordeal, Officer Miller bought me a sub, apologized for the chaos, and actually gave me a lot more insight into the challenges police face than any official briefing ever could. And yeah, I kept donating to that nonprofit. Gotta support the good ones, even if one of their reps turned out to be a certified Karen.
This next one, yeah, it's a good one too.